Your kids don't need a perfect dad, they need a present one. Hey, my name is Justin Franich. Welcome to another episode of Rebuilding Life After Addiction. If you want weekly content that equips you as a father and a leader, hit the subscribe button to stay connected. I want to talk to you today. We want to talk about leading while you're still healing, specifically in the realm of being a parent, right? Because I think a lot of times people come out of this lifestyle of addiction, and if they've got a rough past, they almost feel disqualified from fathering or being fathers. You know what I'm saying? And so let me ask you a question about that. Why do you think men feel disqualified from fatherhood after they've gone through some of the stuff that you and I have gone through? And to be clear, you and I have got two different stories when it comes to that. You had children, right, while you were active in your addiction. I didn't get married and have kids until after I got clean. And so I've had to learn the whole fatherhood thing, from a different angle than what you had to learn it from. So just curious your take on that, man.
I got both. I got married, had more kids after. But, I think one of the biggest things for men coming out of what we've come out of is the fact that the guilt and shame of because I had two kids. One was 2 when I went away to prison, and Brooke was 12. So Bailey was just a baby. She didn't really get put through a lot. Because who remembers when they're 2 years old?
Right.
I don't remember. But Brooke went through a whole lot. So it's like I had the guilt and the shame of what she went through and what I put her through. It almost makes you feel like, how can I even step in and try to be a dad and discipline and do anything because of what I already destroyed?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you have all that past weight on you and trying to forgive yourself and look at how you failed and you've seen what you did here. So it's like, how does that even look here, trying to parent now what I wasn't good at first? That's really hard.
Yeah.
And in that, I literally just had to, I remember having the conversation and they probably didn't understand it then, but was like, okay, I have to put God first because I can't fix all of that I've done, but I can show you through growing with him how I'm going to become a better dad and a better person. And that's going to take time.
Yeah.
It has. We're still rebuilding some of the relationship from time to time that we went through. It's not easy. I don't know. It's not easy on her end, having to forgive me for not being a dad and going to prison and leaving. But you still have to step in and take authority as a parent.
Yeah.
That can be really hard because it's like, out of guilt, you want to let them get away with everything.
Right.
You don't want to correct them on anything because, it's like it's this hard battle and struggle to deal with all the while you're trying to let God create in you what he's trying to do. It's a hard process.
We would see that at Teen Challenge a lot when staff would come in, interns or whatever, and they wouldn't correct students over things they should be correcting them on. And a lot of times it was because there was this insecurity, either because they didn't feel qualified to correct or because they were still doing something themselves that they shouldn't be doing. And how can I correct you for that when I'm still doing X, Y, Z? Now, there's a difference when it comes to parenting because like our responsibility and our obligation is to lead, right? Like we're required to do that as parents, whereas in a job, like we'll get the promotion when we're ready for it. Yeah. A lot of times when you're a parent, like you're doing it whether you're ready for it or not. It's there. And so you made a statement. I had to step in and lead and be that father when I really wasn't even ready for it yet. Yeah. Like when I was still growing, I was still working some things out. And so what does that look like leading in the context of your family while still working through your past? Like, how did you wrestle with that along the way?
Letting him have it, like letting him have control and do that in me while still fighting. And I didn't do it right all the time. Like, I'm just being honest. I know there's times where, one of my kids would act up and I would step back and not correct because I'm like, man, it's probably because of what I did before or how I was. But I eventually got to a point where I'm like, you know what? I just have to take that role. Like you said, I might not be ready, but I have the role. I am that, and I'm going to show them what I should have shown them before, no matter how hard of a fight that is to go through it, because I want to lead them rightly now. And even for the rest of my family, my mom and all them who they never went to church. They didn't understand this. So now I'm trying to live this way that's completely different. And they were like, you're in a cult. You're this. Like, no, this is what God's asking me to do.
Yeah. Leadership is whether it's in the family or whether it's in a job or whatever, like leadership is a refining process. The act of leading, the act of leading wherever we're leading, it grows us, right? And I think sometimes we do make that mistake of thinking I've got to have it all fixed before I lead, right? And now I understand there are ministry-wise, there are things disqualifying from leadership, but in this context, like no, it doesn't matter what I did yesterday. Like if I'm parenting, I've got to lead today. I've got to make this decision. And I love on Sadie, it cracks me up, man, because we were one time having a conversation about, running out in the street or whatever, right? And having that conversation about, hey, you need a first time obedience, right? And if I'm in my insecurity and I'm dealing with some stress because I made a poor decision as a parent a few hours ago, and like, well, I don't know if I should correct her and stop her from running out into that street. It's going to do irreparable damage to her life. And so, like, we don't need to be fixed, right, before we step in and lead. Like, we need to we'll work it out along the way. But it also, there's a part of being honest, like just not pressing for perfection, but being willing to just be honest about where we're at in this journey. Okay, I know I've made some mistakes, but I'm working on it,
Yeah. And the reality is for our kids, whether or not they fight it and they argue with it and they say it, or now you're going to try to the reality is they need it.
Right.
Whether they like it or not in the moment, and ultimately later on will thank you for it.
Yeah.
But you have to, it's the apparent. I had this conversation a lot. Me and my wife, we talk about things in the way of not being mean or gossip, but like the way other people parent. And sometimes it's like, who's the adult?
Right.
So we are the parent and the adult, and we just have to set the guidelines that we know will protect them. Like you're saying, right. All that, like we have to set them, no matter whether they hate us for it for a while or not. And no matter what they throw up in our face, we just have to stand on it and stand on what we know are morals and principles and values and not budge. Yeah. And that's not easy. It's not, but you have to begin to do it. And eventually it will come around.
Yeah, it's that honesty. So what does it look like when like that whole process? Like I think being willing to apologize when we're wrong, right? Even as parents, even as dads. We had an issue the other day. We're actually in my garage right now, which is a studio. I shouldn't have said that because I kind of get rid of the illusion. But like since we moved in, one of the things I've said over and over is like, hey, let's just not make this a place where things get dumped. Let's not throw boxes in here. I came home the other day before I got it all finished, and there were like 10 new boxes in the space. And it just got under my skin. It frustrated me. And I don't yell, but I get snippy. You know what I'm saying? I'm not much of a yeller.
Me either.
And
it's the time that I have.
And I overreacted in front of both of my older daughters and my wife. I overreacted toward my wife in front of my older daughters. And I kind of walked away and just let it go, went to sleep that night. And the next morning I woke up and I really felt bad about it. Like that was an overreaction, apologized to Ashley. And I went into the room with my girls and I said, hey, listen, what I did yesterday was wrong. I shouldn't have reacted like that. I apologize. And of course, both of them responded, oh, Dad, we know you didn't really mean anything. You were just frustrated. It is what it is. I'm like, okay, great. I appreciate you giving me the benefit of the doubt, but I'm still sorry. Yeah. And it is that process of authentic apology, right? What would you say a real apology looks like? I mean, what points, right, does it need to have? Because I think sometimes people have this way of passively apologizing. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm sorry that you made me feel that way, versus having authentic apologies. Yeah. Like what I did was wrong,
I'm laughing because my son Joe, we just had it happen again. He's got a way of apologizing too. It's like, sorry. You know what I mean? And he don't mean a bit of it. You know what I mean? He's just only doing it because we're telling him to do it. Like, and I had to get him 5 times today, and he still wouldn't do it. I'm like, okay, then you can go sit in your room because you're not going to apologize.
All right.
Like, and so there is a way that we can, and if you're like me, you said it too, like I have a body language or I got snippy in my tone versus whatever. But I think that's key because my parents never apologized.
Right.
They would just let it go. You just didn't talk about it anymore once it happened, you know? And I'm growing in the fact of trying to do that. My wife even yelled at Joe the other day when he did something, and she went back in the room and sat with him. She's like, buddy, no, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have yelled like I did.
Right.
You know, and I know you did something wrong, but mommy still needs to have a better reaction.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that I overreacted that way, much like you're saying you did. So there just needs to be a sincerity of taking ownership of the part we did wrong, not saying that what they did was okay, but genuinely, I should have responded better.
Yeah. Well, and how are they going to come to us with their problems and their mistakes if they feel like we're perfect and we don't make any? Because they certainly know we're not perfect, right? But if we never acknowledge like our struggles and whatnot, like where is the basis for conversation with our kids? You know what I'm saying? When they start to need that counsel and that guidance. So there's this process, right? After honesty, like honesty certainly does rebuild trust. Not just being honest in our words, but our actions too, right? And promises, especially, I know for me, I mean, I didn't have kids, but I know for me with the people in my life, when I first got clean, my promises meant nothing. Yeah. It took a while before that happened. My word didn't mean anything. And, you know, it was that being honest, not only in my words, but in my actions that started to rebuild trust with people, right? And so I want to talk about that process, like rebuilding trust. So what did that look like for you? I mean, was there anything that was helpful for you rebuilding trust with the people in your life? You know, you talked about not fighting back, putting the scripture in your shoes, going to court, not returning. You were being yelled at, but not yelling back. You know what I'm saying? Like what were you doing on the daily to rebuild trust with all those people in your life?
Well, one, internally, I accepted and understood what you just said because I'd been a cycle in my life forever. And we always, as soon as we start doing good and we know we're getting better, we want everybody else to feel that way too and treat us like everything's okay. And they're not there yet.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so having and understanding settled in my heart that I'm not doing this so they'll treat me better. I'm doing this so I'm better. Like, I'm not doing this for them to respond. And then if they don't treat me fine, if they don't trust me again, I'm okay. I'm not doing it for them to trust me. I'm doing it to change who I am.
Right. That's good.
Yes. I tell people all the time, like, just because you went through a program and you're good, don't think you can go home and mom's not going to follow you around and check on you and check your phone.
How long did it take you consistently showing up, consistently doing the things that you know you needed to be doing for you to start to feel like you had rebuilt some trust in your relationships?
With my oldest daughter, it took a while, years. And even with my family, there's even now 20 to be 15 years for me. Still, some of my family doesn't think it's real. And I'm okay with that. Like, that's their choice. But I think it took a good 2 or 2.5 years before people started like relaxing a little bit.
Yeah. It takes a while, man. I remember with my mom, like it took probably 4 to 5 months after me being home and being consistent and her knowing that I wasn't going to relapse before I could like ask for the car keys. Because I was younger, I moved back into the house, didn't have a vehicle and all that yet. And it took several months before like, hey, I need to know when you're coming, when you're going, et cetera, until like they started to trust me again. And then learning what it looks like to show up for people and showing up practically, right, on a day-to-day basis consistently. And what I've learned is that looks different depending on who I'm engaging with. Like showing up for my wife, it can be as simple today as putting my phone down when she's talking to me. Like something that simple, like tells her that she's got my attention when she's communicating.
That's important.
And for each of my kids, showing up for them means something different, right? They're not all going to respond the same way, but it does take being present enough to know what that looks like, and know that, like showing up may not be the same depending on who we're engaging with, So what was that like for some of the people in your life? How did you flesh that out? Like, what does it look like to show up for people?
It's exactly what you described. Like, you have to first give them attention and be intentional to know who they are. Because each one is different. Both of my kids are completely different. Yeah, you think about, I don't know if you ever went through the love language book or whatever with the marriage. It's a good book. If nobody's ever done it in their marriage, do it, to like really understand how people receive love and attention. And it's not the same way we do.
Yeah.
So we want to love everybody the way we receive it, but that's not the case. And so, like you said, you have to be present enough and give enough attention to know who they are, to find out the way that they really will feel like you're spending time with them. And it is for my wife, I know, because I'm not perfect at it. When she's talking, I do need to put the phone down. I've learned if I can do that, it's much better. And she receives that like I'm paying attention to her,
Yeah. Ashley and I watched a movie together one night, and I was on my phone the entire movie. And it was like, afterwards, like, she got frustrated. She's like, "You didn't spend any time with me this evening." "What do you mean? I was in the room with you, watched the movie, watched the whole thing." You were on your phone the whole time. And I didn't even realize it, because I just would pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down. Not even, but I did spend most of the movie either scrolling through Facebook or whatever, just mindlessly doom scrolling, as they call it, And it took me a little bit afterwards to kind of realize that, no, my connection in that moment was my full attention. And even though I wasn't staring at her, listening to her attentively in that moment for her, it was important that I was focused on the movie we were enjoying together,
That's the thing. I think you said it earlier, being present, even for somebody like me, like I'm full on Jesus all the time, no matter where I'm at evangelizing. Like and it sounds bad to say it that way, but like there's just times where I realize, hey, God wants me to make sure for them to know that they're important too. So every time that we go out everywhere, I don't have to be focused on leading a bunch of people and looking for somebody to pray for.
Right.
It's intent. And that's been a struggle for me.
Yeah.
Because it's such a hard call and passion that I have. And it's just who I am. But there again, like, it's not about me. It's making sure they feel love too. And so it's denying myself and what I want to do, even though that's a good godly thing. If it's encompassing time with them, God still, like he's had to tell me, son, I want you to do that.
Yeah.
Be intentional with them too. That's your first ministry. There's always going to be lost. Make sure you take care of them. And so, and personally, I've been on probably a 2-year journey of trying to do better in that and saying no.
Yeah.
And being home. I started last year with every other weekend I'm a traveling evangelist. So I could book 52 weekends a year.
Yeah.
But I decided, because I thought I did well at it the first year I tried to do this. And I told you, I sat down with my wife and I'm like, I think I did well this year, honey. She was like, you were home 7 Saturdays.
Yeah.
I don't think it was that many.
She was keeping track.
Oh, yeah.
She wrote down. Yeah.
Because I told her, I said, hold me accountable on this.
Right.
I thought I did good. And she's like, honey, there's 7 on the calendar. We have this family calendar. She look at it. There's 7 that you were home.
Yeah.
52. That's not good.
Yeah.
So I made it a commitment to make sure I'm there at least 1, if not 2. I try to do 2 weekends a month home, and to be intentional. I make sure I'm there in the morning to put my kids on the bus, and I usually give them baths. Like, there's just certain things that I try to do that I can't do everything, but I can help her. And that makes her feel, like I'm paying attention to her. I'm helping out being dad. And then also it lets them know that there's certain things dad does with me.
Right. Yeah, that's good. And the cool thing, man, is like, as we start to figure this out as parents, and I'm learning, right, every day, 4 girls in the house, like, God is patient with us as our Father, right? And so, like I think there's that process of like God teaches us how to father by his example. by how he treats us, how he responds to us and whatnot. And patience, right, being the key factor there. Like, we have patience with our children. We don't have to react. We don't have to overreact. And, you know, sometimes it might take them a little bit to get something, but it takes me a while to get things sometimes too. And so I kind of take his example and then I try to apply that as the blueprint, right, for how I parent. And sometimes I get it right. Sometimes I blow it, you know, but I was acknowledging this the other day, man. I was in, my oldest is learning to drive, and we did the whole first parking lot experience, you know, in the car, didn't really go anywhere. And just like, you know, like part of me is wanting to grab the wheel, and part of me is wanting to like, no, don't slam the brake on so hard. But then the other part of me is like, you know what? We're in a big, wide open parking lot. It's okay. Like, you know, I'm going to give her some time to figure this out. She's going to feel her way through it. But then afterwards, it really hit me, dude, because like, she's 16, she's learning to drive. And like, I started to think about what I was doing when I was 16.
Amen.
And the goodness of God really just like covered me in that moment. You know, it was just like, man, like, God taught me a lot in that moment. Like the curse has been broken. You know what I'm saying? It was just really such a cool thing. And
a few of them with my older ones, you know, moving out and different things. And I can remember with Carly, like, and we wasn't in a good spot in our relationship. She had moved out. It didn't go well. Like, there was just a bunch of things. And of course, as parents, we want them living a certain way, especially Christians. You know what I mean? And so there was that whole battle, and she's 18, wanting to do her own thing. And I kind of had them moments too. And I'm the only one that had a truck, and she needed help moving. And so she's like, ask Mom to ask me, would Dad help me move? And she's expecting me to pull up, you know, being like, hey, telling her this and that. And as I was driving there to get the stuff and help her, the Lord did that to me. He said, remember where you were at 18 and how you were doing? And I was like, oh, Lord Jesus, way worse. And so I pulled up and I just said, hey, and I don't get them all right. This one I got right. I was like, hey, you know what? I'm proud of you. And she's like, what? And I'm like, you are doing way better than I ever did at 18. You're responsible. You got a job. You got yourself an apartment. I'm just proud of you.
Yeah.
You know, even though if you're not doing everything that I would do at this moment, you're doing way better than I would ever imagined at 18. And I did that. So I'm just proud of it. And like, sometimes I get them right. Like, sometimes I fail them miserably, but you know, there's some moments. I think one of the biggest things, another mentor of mine told me this about discipleship, but it flows right into parentship. Like, this is a really good little one-liner advice. Like, you have to give your kids permission to be themselves.
Yeah.
Like, they're not you. You can't make them into you and do exactly everything you would do. You can have the guidelines and the rules, but somewhere in there, you got to just let them be comfortable to be them.
Yeah.
No matter what that looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, we were having some, and it's those conversations that matter too, because we were having some conversation the other day, and like, I don't want, like, if my kids want to push back on the scripture, like, or they're struggling or they're wrestling with something themselves, like, I don't want to just shut them down in that. You know what I'm saying? Like, because as a teacher, pastor, whatever, like, my initial is like to just correct the error, like, right out as they're figuring something out.
Yeah, that's me.
But it's like slowing down and saying, well, here's how I see it. Here's what I see as truth. But also giving them some time to work that out. Because the way I see it is that, like, if they can work through those thoughts and then come to the truth on their own, it's going to be a lot more substantial than if I just immediately correct right out of the gate. Chloe was talking to me about an interaction she was having with somebody, you know, and the person had said some things and whatnot. And I kind of understood the perspective the person was saying those things to her. But she was like, no, I don't think it was right, yada, yada. And I let her get it out. And then I said, okay, I'm not saying you're wrong, but let me just pitch this side of it and just let you think through that. And you could see her pause in that moment. And she started to think about both sides of the coin. Here's my perspective, here I see it, and here's how the other perspective. And she started to think through that. And I love those moments, where it's just slowing down, being patient, listening, hearing her out, but then also then giving her the other side of that equation so that she can critically think through it and then figure out, what the truth is. So as we wrap up this conversation, give me a moment with your kids that has shaped how you lead. So we've talked about leading while healing, right? A lot of this conversation has really been about, we're works in progress. We're figuring this out as we go. Like there's a need for honesty. It's consistency that's going to matter, right? With our kids, we're not going to have it all together. But what's a moment with your children, man, that has like really shaped kind of how you lead?
Oh, wow. You put me on the spot there, didn't you? You good at that. Steve always put me on the spot. I'm in the process of it right now, I think. And I've talked to you, and she probably wouldn't mind me sharing some of it, but, Carly that left I was talking about, she ended up getting with a boyfriend or whatever, and things didn't work out, and she wanted to come home, and it's like, what do you do in that situation? I have my morals and standards at my home, and so I keep them. And I'm like, you gotta have a place to come home, but you can't bring your boyfriend to live with you here. Like, we won't compromise on that. We love you, and you're welcome to come back if he can figure something else out. Right. But unless you're married, you can't come back. And then a week later, she calls me. He's like, well, what if we get married? And I'm like, oh. Yes. But like the immediate part of my flesh wanted to say it's too soon. They're not ready for that. Don't do it just because, don't do it just because you need a place to stay. And we kind of like talked to her about that stuff, but we said at the same time, but if this is what you're already talking about, and the Lord had to check me. He's like, this is what you've been praying for.
Yeah.
And it's like, not only will I take her back, then I'm going to marry him and then have him come in as my son-in-law and live with us. And that's always not always easy. He's got a total different background. You know what I mean? And it's like, God's like, this is what you've been praying for.
Yeah.
So, me and my wife sat down and we prayed and we talked about it. And it's like, okay, like, well, don't just go to the courthouse then. Like, we'll marry you. Like, and pass it out. So I got to marry her.
Yeah.
At our house in a little small thing, and they moved in. And I'm telling you what, like, honestly, and I hope she sees this because I've told her, so my wife there night, it's been really good.
Yeah.
Like it has. And I mean, and some pastors might be like, well, you can't do that. Shouldn't have married. They weren't ready. Like, I sat down with them and had conversations. Like, if you're going to do this, don't go to the courthouse. Put God in the middle.
Yeah.
And just let him be there and learn and grow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, you're just going to have to, I'll help you. And I've been able to there's just been a grace in the house since we've done that.
When it's like, it's interesting though, right? Because like, I think it's a really good takeaway there. Don't set a standard if you're not willing to keep it. Because you said, you didn't say you can't move in with me.
Yeah.
You said you can't move in with me unless you get married.
Yeah.
So they made the unless you happen. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's like, now what?
Right. And so we sometimes do that though, right? We set these standards out there thinking people won't follow through with them. And then when they do follow through with them, like we get called onto the carpet for like, okay, now I've got to like stick to my word here. Yeah. And that's a good takeaway for parents, right? Because sometimes
just stick to it, have the right attitude in it.
100%.
That's where I'm saying, I think I'm doing a somewhat decent job. I hope anyway, the Lord will let me know if I'm not, but because you could do it and then have a bad attitude, right? Not like him and not want to do it. But me and him have really talked a lot. We've shared a lot. They've helped a lot. We've been able to help guide them some and help them make decisions. And it's like, man, if I would have just been like, oh no, you can't get married now, let's do, and had that, like, I wouldn't have the opportunity not only to help my daughter get back with Christ, but him too.
Right.
And if that's the man she chose, as a parent, where you'll find out later on when they get older,
yeah,
you would like for them to choose a person, but when we were young, we chose who we wanted to choose, and you can't make them not do that.
Right.
What better way but to help both of them grow Now they're starting to go to church, and they hadn't come to our church yet. They've been going to the church with their grandma, which praise God, like they weren't in church
Yeah.
a month ago. Now they're going to church every Sunday with grandma. It's
Yeah.
like, praise God, they're in the right direction. So I'm hoping that what we was able to do leading right was showing the grace of God,
Yeah.
the mercy and love of God, and wanting, yes, do the right thing and get married and just make a step.
Yeah. That's
And
good.
embrace that with grace, and we'll love you through it, and we'll help you. And I'm hoping that we're showing the grace of God.
That's so good. I think it's letting your yes be yes and your no be no. And that's, and there's something going on with this. That's one of the issues I think we definitely coming out of addiction struggle with. We are not trustworthy. Our word means nothing. And then when we say no, especially afterwards, like there's almost like if I've made a mistake with somebody and then I feel like I need to people please that person afterwards. And if I say no, it's like I need to explain my no versus just saying it, letting it be what it is. And it's like you had that conversation, you set a standard, and then you stuck to it. And now you're figuring the rest of it out right now. But it's that difference of like, wait, your word meant something now, right? No, you can't move in unless you get married. Okay, Dad, I'll get married. And then when she did, you didn't press her. You didn't like change, right? You didn't move the finish line somewhere else afterwards. Like, and I think that's a big deal, right? It's that process. Like your word now means something, and you followed through with it. And I think that's a huge part of doing this. It's not being perfect. It's just being present, right? And then it's making our word actually mean something to the people around us.
One, what most people, including her, don't know. So maybe she'll watch this and know. And I've tried to tell her, but sometimes we give them opportunities. I was in the very beginning with her. She was 8 when me and Karina got married. You know what I mean? I was out of prison and going through my healing, like we was talking about, and I probably got a lot more wrong than I did right with her. I probably was way too strict and blunt and not apologizing enough, and there's a lot of things I could have done. I could still do things way better. But we also have Joe and Caleb, who are 6 and 7, that we've adopted, and they've gotten the newer, more improved version of Dad loving and leading rightly than she did. You know what I mean? And so for me, I just think, wow, what a full circle way to help. Because I'm sure she's probably like, well, Joe and Caleb get you. You're way more patient with them, and so I think this is even a way of like helping reconcile some of that.
Yeah, that's good.
Now being able to give her even and him some of the more improved version of Christ in me than what I could in the early days. And we were really close in the early days, but I really wasn't parenting and leading as well as I do now. Like I wasn't as affirming with her as I am with our boys. I wasn't as present as I am with them. So now it's like I get to be.
Yeah.
So for me, it's even what I didn't see coming. What's mad, it's even a chance to help do that better again.
Yeah, that's really good. That's a great way to wrap it up. What a phenomenal story. It's just the encouragement, man. Thank you guys for watching. And just a reminder that your presence beats perfection. You don't have to have it all worked out. Like God's going to continue to heal you while you're leading. And you're going to get an opportunity to see his grace and see his hand, in your life as you just continue to show up and just be present and just do what you can with what you have. That's all your kids could ask. They really just want you there. So, hey, thank you guys for watching, Rob. Thank you for jumping in, man. And it's been a good conversation, and we'll see you again soon.